One of the questions that I get the most from new chatters is how to transition from small talk into selling. Now, the way that we teach chatting over at my house is that you are required to engage in small talk with subscribers 95% of the time, unless they're like, I'm horny, I want to jerk off, give me your fucking content, here's my money. Most of the time, they're not going to be so overt, and you need to go through the steps of qualifying and building commonalities before you move into selling, because the thing that separates you from the girl that he can find for free on Pornhub is that he can build an emotional connection with you. So you want to provide that experience to him so that he will spend money with you forever. Now, the way that you do that is by qualifying and building commonalities. I've gone over that in many videos. I'm not going to go over it here, but it's small talk. You got to ask them questions and relate their answer to yourself in some way. Doesn't have to be a fucking super complex way or a super deep way. It can be like, oh, my cousin said that, or I saw that in a documentary, whatever. So then what you want to do to transition into selling is you want to run what is called a transitional gambit. Okay, what is a gambit? A gambit is it's like a conversation, a pre-scripted conversation that you are going to have, that you are essentially going to run the same way regardless of what they say, that follows a specific path to elicit a specific response from them, or at the very least, get them to think of specific things, sexual things, without them being aware that you are doing that. The whole purpose of transitioning to selling of the transitional gambit is to move the conversation to a sexual topic without it being obvious that you are doing it. Because if it's obvious that you are doing it, then they are going to know that you are only doing it because you want to sell content, which makes you look like you have an agenda, and it makes it look premeditated, and it kills the fantasy, if nothing else. Well, in addition to other things. So how do you do it? Well, there's 5 steps. The first step is the transitional opener. Step 1 is the transitional opener. Now, the transitional opener, this is really just like posing a question. What's your opinion on this? Do you think this? How do you feel about this? Now, you want to couch this, if possible, in some sort of what I call apologetic language. I know this is super random, but I know this is strange to be asking you since we just met, but this crazy thought just popped into my head, but I kind of feel like asking you because I need a guy's opinion. Blah. Okay, now the example that I'm going to give you right now is, and then the question that you want to ask is you want to ask them some kind of question about relationships, or about a sexual topic, or about something that is either about sex, something that happens on a date, or something that happens before sex happens, or even after sex happens. Something that is, let's call, sex adjacent. So this one, what we're going to do, the example I'm going to give you is, how do you feel about girls making the first move? So the one that I have here, I need a guy's opinion. How do you feel about it when a girl makes the first move? Does that turn you on, or is it a turn off, right? Simple. You can fucking phrase it up however you want, but that's the general idea. Now, what you can do is you can either wait for him to give his opinion. He can be like, oh, I really like it, or, oh, I don't like it. And it's also a good opportunity to see how much the sub is going to invest. When you ask him a question like this, right, you will know how engaged he is in the conversation by the amount of effort he puts into his response. If he's just like, oh, I like it, then he's not that invested, and you need to go deeper, or, identify that he's a fucking dud and he sucks. But if he's like, oh my God, I love it so much, and this one time this happened and the girl did this and my dick got so hard and blah, 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 then you know he's much more engaged, and you can perhaps mentally prepare for a much bigger sale and a much longer sexting session. Then what you want to do, let's say you don't want to wait for his answer, or even if you do, you are going to root the question. Root the question. You are going to give roots to the question. And what happens when you give roots to something is you provide it stability. Really what this means is you give a reason for why you are asking the question. You don't want to just be like, if he asks you why, you're like, well, I don't know. I just wanted your opinion. Who the fuck cares? It has no base. It's baseless if you do it that way. And it's stupid, and it's wrong, and it doesn't work. Or it works less. Or it only works on retards. And this will work on smart people. So you want to root it. You want to basically say, the reason I'm asking is because blah. So the example that I have here, I was talking to my friend, and she said that she loves surprising her boyfriend with blah, with a kiss, with a blowjob, with grabbing his dick, with shoving her tits in his face. I don't know, anything. Depends how spicy you want to get. You don't have to get, you can play it safe. You don't have to get super spicy because then it might seem more obvious that your intention was to bring the conversation sexual. Depends on the sub. That said, talked to my friend. She said she loves surprising her boyfriend with a, big, wet, sloppy kiss. But I feel like guys don't like it that much. That's what I've heard. And then what you want to do, step 3, is a request for input. Okay, so you can wait for them to respond if they do. Like, let's say they're engaged and they're fucking sitting right there and they're typing their response immediately after you send the message. Okay, you can let them respond. Anytime somebody's typing, you always want to fucking let them say whatever the fuck it is they're going to say. All right? And then what you want to do, step 3, request for input. So regardless of what they say, they respond or they don't respond. Then you're going to ask them, what do you think? And if they already tell you what they think, you're going to say, what do you mean by that? Right? Simple way to get people to expand on it. Or seems like you have a reason for saying that. And if they're like, let's say you wait for them, let's say they give a response before you can get to step 3. And you would say something like, what do you mean by that? Has that ever happened to you? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, this happened, that happened. Anything that you can do to get them talking, let's say in between the steps, fucking going off, blah, blah, blah. You want to let them do it. The more they invest in the conversation, the more deep in the trance they are going to be, and the more likely it is that they actually go and spend the money. So let's say they don't, right? What do you think? Would you get all excited, or would you rather be the one to take control? And now you're going to wait for them to fucking give their answer. I like it. I don't like it. Okay. And then this is where things start to get more heated, right? Here, what you're going to do is you're going to do what I call a hypnotic afterthought. Now, if you're a pro, if you're really good, or once you get good at this, you can combine it with a commonality. It'd be a great opportunity for that. So let's say the guy says, oh, I really like it when a girl does that. I think it's super sexy. I love the confidence. And as a guy, every once in a while, it's nice to not have to be the one to initiate it every time. And when the girl comes over and just starts doing sexy stuff without me having to fucking do it all the time. Right? Let's say that he says that. Then what you're going to do, like I said, is the purpose of step 4, the hypnotic afterthought, is to use language that deepens use language that paints a picture in their head about what you were talking about in a more sexual way or more sensual way. I don't fucking go over the top. Be like, oh yeah, isn't it great? I love, when I love getting a guy's dick hard and shoving it super far up my ass. Oh, it's the best. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. This is transitional. You are transitioning to selling. You're not being vulgar. So for example, what I have here, let's say the guy says he likes it. You would say, oh my God, I know what you're talking about. Commonality. Isn't it hot when someone takes control? The way it catches you by surprise makes everything feel more intense, like you just know what's going to happen next. So that's very coy. That's very suggestive, right? You're not being explicit. You're not being, it's called on the nose. You're not fucking telling him exactly. You're not saying, for example, oh yeah, I love when I put penises in my mouth and the man is surprised and doesn't know it. No, you're being more suggestive. You're saying like, how do I explain suggestive language? You want to be vague, right? What I have here, because it's kind of hot when someone takes control, right? Like the way it catches you by surprise, makes everything feel more intense, like you just know what's going to happen next. So now what you're doing, and you've also kind of snuck a commonality in there, which is always good. Now what you're doing is you are preparing his mind. You are strengthening the shift from like, where are you from? How old are you type shit to like, okay, now we're talking about sexy stuff. You're not asking him to buy anything yet. You haven't started that. You're not jumping into that right away. You just shifted the topic of conversation into something that can turn sexual, preferably by him saying that. Now, after you do the hypnotic afterthought, maybe he'll be like, oh yeah, like what? Or maybe he'll fucking be really into it and be like, yes. And then, when she kisses me, I'll whip out my cock and slap her in the face, whatever. It doesn't matter what he fucking says. And then after that, he responds, he doesn't respond. You're going to do what's called a seductive tease. Okay. Now you're going to lay it on a little bit thicker. You're going to crank the intensity up a little bit higher. And this is what is going to allow you to move into the selling phase. Because now with this one, with the hypnotic afterthought, like every step in this process is designed to move him just a little bit further towards being in the mood, right? You don't want to sell when he's not in the mood. You're moving him a little bit further every single time. But with the last two steps, what you're doing is you're really kind of like pushing him over the edge. So the seductive tease, what I have written here, is not saying I'd surprise you with the first move or anything, ... unless you're into that, winky face. And then he says whatever he says. And then with this gambit in particular, he'll be like, oh, I would love when you did that to me. Then you can send him a picture. You can send him a fucking PPV. You can send him, I would recommend sending a PPV at this point for him to unlock, because now he's so invested. He's gone through the entire gambit. He's gone through the entire sequence. And he's like, well, fuck. And especially if you do it for like $5 or something. This is what it's like to give a sub a good fucking experience. This is what it means to blow a sub's mind. I promise you, there's no fucking chatters who are doing this. They're all retards. They're all lazy, stupid, undisciplined fucking retards. If you do this, you will get the sub for life, or you will at least get him to the next session, because he'll be like, oh my God, I remember what happened last time. It feels like it just happened. It feels like it was so spontaneous. Like 1 minute we were just talking about this, and then all of a sudden I'm fucking buying PPVs, looking at her titties. It's more you're seducing him with this, and not just with the last step. You're seducing him with the entire process. You have to be patient. You have to be fucking smart. I mean, not really. You just fucking, like, you can honestly copy paste this shit. You shouldn't. You should add like stuff into it as well and make it unique to the sub and unique to the girl. But you could copy paste it. I got fucking 10 of these here for my chatters to copy paste. I shouldn't say that. Don't copy paste it, please. Anyway, that is the transitional gambit, or how to do a transitional gambit, or how to transition from small talk into selling. Let me know what you think. How do you transition from small talk into selling? How does it compare to my strategy? What do you think? Leave me a comment. See you in the next one.